got attorney Richard Alexander in the house. Alexander Law, welcome in.
Thank you again, Brandon.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. So your practice is more on the criminal defense side. You're helping people with DUIs, different types of activity.
Correct.
You're defending the people that, again, with the consultation, or we talk about you have a consultation that you can offer them. But, what are you seeing out there?
Well, I will say this, DUIs are very complicated. They are, law enforcement is very aggressive with DUI cases, obviously because MAD is a very strong lobby in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, MAD has been instrumental in getting some of the DUI laws changed.
Wow.
That's how powerful they are. I'll give you a perfect example. Until several years ago, if someone blew above a .15, it was just treated as a normal DUI. Now it's called an aggravator.
Wow.
And you're looking at enhanced fines.
Wow.
And, you're also looking at an ignition interlock device, which is mandatory.
Mm.
So, MAD has been quite influential, but law enforcement, they go after DUIs very aggressively.
Right.
And sometimes to the client's detriment.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what the law is in the state of Florida. It's not driving drunk. It's driving under the influence to the extent that your normal faculties are impaired.
Yeah, one thing I think about too is what about the effects of all these drugs and the different types of opioids and different drugs that are affecting it, and then you get into the compound effect. I mean, does that exacerbate if somebody's had a few beers or a couple alcoholic drinks?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody would tell you that certainly when you start mixing alcohol with a controlled substance or a chemical substance, it's going to make it a much more challenging case.
Right.
The only thing that I think the client has on his side is that the only way to detect those is through a urine sample.
Okay.
Outside of blood, of course.
Right.
Blood's a whole different parameter.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not a breathalyzer in the world that's going to detect marijuana.
Right.
Or opioid or cocaine or heroin. It's just not going to detect it. You're going to get triple zeros all day, every day.
Right.
And that makes it a little bit more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the urine is not going to state exactly when that item was consumed or taken.
Right. Yeah, and so much of it comes down to how much the person had to eat,
Correct.
How much they're absorbing in their stomach, when we're talking about a DUI potential. So I think here's a question maybe some of our consumers would have, some of our listeners out there, and maybe they're watching our TV show as well. So if you're out to eat, you've had a couple, you had a small meal, maybe a light salad or lighter meal, but you did have 3, 4, maybe 5 drinks. At what point in your mind, or what would be your advice, in other words, because some people say, hey, if I get pulled over, I'm not going to blow, I'm not going to cooperate, and then you forfeit your driving rights, I believe. Can you walk us through that scenario?
Sure. Basically, what you're talking about, all alcohol comes down to 2 premises. Anytime someone consumes alcohol, it's always absorption versus elimination. Because the body absorbs alcohol in several different ways. Obviously, it goes into the stomach. The kidney, of course, eliminates alcohol. Alcohol is also eliminated through the pores in your skin.
Mm-hmm.
When you breathe, you're also eliminating alcohol. So there's a lot of different variables out there as to when alcohol is consumed. The best thing I would tell anybody is take your time. If you're going to consume alcohol, just do it over a period of time.
Right.
Make sure you eat.
Right.
Certainly, because then the food can absorb some of the alcohol.
Right.
And I would say, as far as the Florida Implied Consent Law,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you look at your driver's license,
Right.
if you have a driver's license in the state of Florida, you will sign it. And right below the signature, it says that, can you please read what that says? Actually, Leo just pulled out his Florida driver's license. He's about to read what it says under your signature.
Operation of a motor vehicle constitutes consent to any sobriety test required by law.
And what I want to add about that
Yep.
is people have no idea that they just signed on their driver's license that they have agreed to take a field sobriety test as required by law.
Yeah.
If they do not, DMV will suspend your license for 1 year minimum.
Wow. Yeah, Richard, that's something that, people don't realize. It's a privilege to drive, and
It
I think,
is.
and it's such a fine line because, when you talk about mothers against drunk driving, Matt, people have lost family members through the DUI process. And then the other side is, hey, you're out watching a ball game, you have a couple beers, it's a Saturday afternoon, it's your day to relax and chill out as a, busy parent or, work, whatever you do for work. But, so it's such a fine line. But the bottom line is, if you're driving, you have rights. And
Correct.
as an attorney, Richard Alexander Law, he's here to help defend you and your rights.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah. So you're doing that on a daily basis. I mean, trials outside of the DUI process, what other types of trials are you taking on?
Well, the firm I'm associated with, they do a lot of personal injury cases,
Okay.
motor vehicle accidents, and I strictly stick with the criminal defense side of it.
Right.
Because PI cases, personal injury cases, they really, if you have a really good staff, they will walk the client through everything.
Nice.
To things like getting a rental, making sure your car is repaired if it's repairable, making sure you see the right doctors.
Right.
That's critical when it comes to the PI world.
Yeah.
The lawyers kind of stay out of it in the beginning. And when I mean the beginning, I mean like anywhere between 6 months to a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Lawyers
'Cause
kind of stay out of it.
it's a slow moving process.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Criminal defense, that's a much different animal.
Yeah. Criminal defense, once something like this happens, you're under the gun. I mean, you've got certain time frames
Correct.
that you have to adhere to.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Speedy
Yeah.
trial, for instance, is one example.
Yeah. So, and we've all heard that, hey, the DUI can cost you roughly $10,000, right?
Well, the minimum fine, even on a first-time DUI, is $500. That's
Yep.
not including court costs.
Right.
But then you have to get your car to impound.
Yep.
That's going to cost you some money.
Yep.
DUI school is approximately $300.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to do that regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can get quite expensive. Probation is not free.
Right.
It can be overwhelming financially for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah. Financially, emotionally, I mean, just the whole process of dealing with that. And I imagine that we've seen a decrease in the amount of, this was just a rough guess here, but with Uber, Lyft, the ride sharing programs, a lot of the companies out there, the cab companies will offer, free rides to people that are drunk, or I've heard of that. Have you seen the statistics come down over time?
I personally have not. I have
Yeah.
not seen any decrease in the cases that come in through Uber. I
Yep.
think it's because the immediacy of having your car keys and getting into your car.
Right.
That takes a couple of minutes at most.
Yep.
Where with Uber, you have to wait.
Yeah.
And, quite honestly, we're not very patient when it comes to waiting for a cab.
Yeah.
And I think it's the immediacy of having your car keys and going to the car is what people rather do than actually call Uber or
Sure.
some other ride
Yeah,
share
and then,
program.
and then the next morning it's like, oh, I have to go back and get my car.
Correct.
If they didn't think about it, I think there might be more people, just planning the whole day around an Uber. Like, hey, we're going to leave, we're going to go to the concert, take an Uber there, Uber back. But so Richard Alexander Law, you're based right here in Tampa.
Correct.
Tampa Bay. Okay,
Yes.
great. So if you're a listener out there, we'd love for you to reach out and work with our staff here, work with our folks, not staff, but our partners on the show, folks that we've assembled. And Richard's a legal analyst here on the show, criminal defense attorney, and he can help you. So if you have a loved one, maybe it's not you, maybe it's a friend that's gone through something like this recently, or you might just want to have our number in your phone. Here's a good number to save in your phone. At some point you may need it. 813-670-7372. That's our consumer advocate hotline. You can call or text that line, and our promise is to get back to you as quickly as possible. 813-670-7372, and we'll put you right in touch with attorney Richard Alexander. So the initial consultation, is that free for folks?
Always.
How do you structure that? Okay.
Always.
So they can come in, sit down, and get that consultation, and just at least figure out, hey, here's your cards. Here's how you might want to play these cards.
Yeah, my favorite is always when people just call me out of the blue and they will apologize profusely. I'm sorry for bothering you. I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
That to me is an honor.
Yeah.
If someone takes the time to call me after the first consultation, the second, the third, I consider that just an honor.
Yeah, it is. To have someone trust you.
Trust. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Because you went to law school. You've got the student loan debt. And how that plays out. But the scenario is, hey, that's what we're doing in business here. We're in business to help people, and that's why we set this show up as the Consumer Quarterback Show, to help people understand their decisions. So it's kind of one of those things. Back to the DUI. Do you blow or do you not? That's a decision you make. And if you know that you're going to blow over a point, is it 0.08 still, or are they lowered?
0.08, correct.
So 0.08. So, if you're going to blow above that in your mind, then you may not want to. Is that safe to say, Richard?
Yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody what to do.
Right.
I would just say that 3-digit magic number is the most powerful piece of evidence for the prosecutor.
Right. That's a good point.
That's all I will say about that.
So read that how you take it. Read that as you may.